Some places on Earth look so unreal that your brain immediately rejects them. They don't feel natural. They don't feel possible. They look like something created by a computer, or designed for a movie, or painted by an artist who ignored the rules of reality. But what if none of that is true? What if these places exist exactly as you see them, right now, in the real world? No CGI, no visual tricks, no digital manipulation. These are real locations and formations that challenge your perception, confuse your instincts, and make you question what natural really means. Here are 10 real things that seem impossible, but actually exist. 1. The Crooked Forest, Poland. In western Poland, there is a forest that instantly feels unsettling the moment you step inside it. Not because it's dark or dense or dangerous, but because something about it feels wrong. Hundreds of pine trees grow with a sharp, unnatural curve at their base. Each trunk bends smoothly near the ground, forming a perfect arc, and then continues growing straight upward as if nothing unusual ever happened. What makes this forest so disturbing isn't just the shape of the trees, it's the consistency. Almost every tree curves in the same direction, at nearly the same angle, with almost identical proportions. Nature rarely creates patterns this uniform, and that's why your brain immediately questions what it's seeing. At first glance, it feels artificial, like someone intentionally bent each tree by hand decades ago and then simply walked away. Scientists have proposed several explanations. Some believe heavy snow may have weighed the young trees down while they were still flexible. Others suggest that human activity could have shaped them during early growth stages. But no single theory fully explains why the forest looks the way it does today. Even with scientific explanations, the crooked forest still feels unnatural. Standing there, surrounded by curved trunks, frozen in time, it feels like nature briefly followed a blueprint and then never repeated it again. 2. The Eye of the Sahara. Mauritania. Deep within the vast emptiness of the Sahara Desert lies one of the most mysterious structures on Earth. From the ground, you wouldn't notice anything unusual at all. But from space, it's impossible to miss. A massive circular formation stretches across the desert, over 40 kilometers wide. Concentric rings ripple outward from a central point, forming what looks unmistakably like a giant eye staring up from beneath the sand. For many years, scientists believed this structure was caused by a meteor impact. The symmetry seemed too precise to be anything else. But later studies revealed a different story. The Eye of the Sahara formed through natural geological uplift, followed by millions of years of erosion that slowly carved its distinctive shape. Even knowing that, the site still feels wrong. Nothing about it looks random. The rings are too clean, too evenly spaced, too deliberate. Astronauts often use this structure as a visual landmark when orbiting Earth, precisely because it stands out so clearly against the surrounding landscape. It's one of the few geological formations that is easier to recognize from space than from the ground. It's a reminder that some of the most unbelievable features of our planet exist on scales too large for human perspective. 3. Ice volcanoes of Lake Baikal, Russia. During winter, Lake Baikal transforms into a frozen landscape that feels completely alien. And scattered across its icy surface, strange formations begin to appear. They look like miniature volcanoes, small cones rising from the frozen lake, built entirely out of ice. These structures form when pressurized water beneath the ice forces its way upward through cracks. As the water reaches the surface, it freezes instantly, layer by layer, slowly building a cone-shaped mound. Over time, the process repeats, creating smooth, symmetrical ice formations that feel almost sculpted. The result looks engineered. The cones are too balanced, too precise, too deliberate, but no one builds them. They form naturally, driven only by pressure, temperature, and time. What makes these ice volcanoes so fascinating is how unfamiliar they feel. Ice is usually associated with flat surfaces or jagged breaks. Seeing it rise upward in controlled geometric shapes challenges everything we expect from frozen water. Standing near them, it's hard to believe they weren't designed intentionally. They feel like structures from another planet, created not by intelligence, but by physics alone. 4. The underwater waterfall. Mauritius. Off the coast of Mauritius, something appears to be happening that simply should not exist. From above, the ocean looks like it's collapsing into itself, as if a massive waterfall is flowing beneath the sea. At first glance, it feels completely impossible. Water falling underwater contradicts everything we understand about physics, and yet the image is so convincing that many people assume it must be fake. But this phenomenon is real. What you're actually seeing is an optical illusion created by sand and silt being pulled off the continental shelf by powerful ocean currents. As these sediments slide downward into deeper water, they create the appearance of a giant underwater cascade. Even when you understand the explanation, your eyes refuse to accept it. The illusion is too strong, too clear, too dramatic. From certain angles, it looks as though the ocean itself has torn open, revealing a hidden abyss below. The contrast between the shallow turquoise water and the darker depths only intensifies the effect. This phenomenon is a perfect example of how nature can trick human perception. It doesn't rely on movement or light alone. It relies on perspective. And that's what makes it so unsettling. Your brain knows what it's seeing can't be real, but your eyes insist otherwise. 5. The Marble Caves, Chile. Along the remote shores of General Carrera Lake in Chile, water has been quietly sculpting something extraordinary for thousands of years. Solid marble cliffs have been carved into smooth, winding caves by the constant movement of waves. Over time, the stone has been polished into flowing curves that feel more like art than geology. Inside these caves, light reflects off the water and stone, creating shifting shades of blue, white, and gray. The walls seem to glow, changing color depending on the time of day and the movement of the lake. At first glance, it feels impossible that this could be natural. The surfaces are too smooth, the patterns too fluid. But no tools were used here. No hands shaped the stone. Only water, pressure, and time. Standing inside the marble caves feels like stepping into a living painting, one that never looks the same twice. It's a reminder that nature doesn't rush, but when it works patiently, it can produce results more refined than anything intentionally designed. 6. Giant's Causeway, Northern Ireland. Along the northern coast of Ireland lies a landscape that looks more engineered than natural. Thousands of stone columns rise from the ground, each shaped into near-perfect hexagons. They fit together so precisely that it feels like someone carefully arranged them by hand. For centuries, local legends claimed that giants built this place. The geometry was simply too perfect to be explained any other way. Today, science tells us these columns formed when molten lava cooled and contracted, cracking evenly as it solidified. The result was a natural pattern, repeated thousands of times across the landscape. Even knowing this, the sight remains unsettling. Nature rarely produces shapes with this level of mathematical precision, and when it does, it challenges our assumptions about randomness. Standing on the columns, surrounded by geometric stone stretching to the horizon, it's hard not to feel like you're walking across the remains of something constructed, not formed. 7. The Blue Lava, Kawah Ijen Volcano, Indonesia. At first glance, this looks like something straight out of a science fiction movie. Streams of glowing blue liquid flowing down the side of a volcano, lighting up the darkness as if the Earth itself were emitting neon light. But despite how unreal it looks, this phenomenon is completely real and happens at the Kawah Ijen volcano in Indonesia. What you're seeing here is often called blue lava, but technically, it isn't lava at all. The glow comes from molten sulfur gas that escapes through cracks in the volcano. When this sulfur comes into contact with oxygen and ignites, it burns with an intense electric blue flame. As the sulfur melts and flows downhill, it creates the illusion of glowing blue rivers. This phenomenon is only visible at night, which makes it even more surreal. During the day, the flames are usually invisible, and the volcano looks far more ordinary. At night, however, the landscape transforms into something that feels almost otherworldly, with bright blue fire cutting through the darkness. Kawah Ijen is also one of the most extreme places on Earth to work. Local miners descend into the crater daily to extract solid sulfur, often carrying loads weighing more than 70 kilograms, while breathing toxic fumes. It's one of the most dangerous mining jobs in the world. So while the blue glow looks beautiful and unreal, it's actually the result of a harsh and dangerous natural process. No CGI, no special effects, just chemistry, fire, and one of the most fascinating volcanic phenomena on the planet. 8. Spotted Lake, Canada. For most of the year, Spotted Lake looks like an ordinary body of water. But during warmer months, it transforms into something that feels almost artificial. As the water evaporates, mineral deposits remain behind, forming large circular pools across the surface of the lake. Each pool can be a different color, depending on its mineral composition. From above, the lake looks like a piece of abstract art. Perfect circles, bold colors, sharp boundaries. It's difficult to believe that this pattern wasn't designed intentionally, but every shape forms naturally, guided by evaporation, chemistry, and temperature. The process repeats itself year after year, producing nearly identical patterns each time. What makes Spotted Lake so striking is its precision. Nature usually creates variation, but here it produces order. Looking at it feels like staring at a simulation, one where someone carefully planned every detail. Except no one did. 9. Danxia landforms, China. In certain regions of China, entire mountain ranges appear painted. Layers of red, orange, yellow, and green stretch across hills and cliffs, forming bands of color that feel far too vibrant to be natural. These colors developed over millions of years as mineral-rich sandstone was compressed, uplifted, and slowly eroded. Each layer represents a different period of geological history. From a distance, the landscape looks surreal, like a massive canvas brushed with color. The contrast between the layers is so sharp that it feels artificial, almost digital. Many people assume the images must be enhanced, but they aren't. What makes the Danxia formations so fascinating is how clearly they display time. Each stripe is a record, frozen in stone, showing how the Earth slowly reshaped itself. Standing there, surrounded by color, carved by erosion, it becomes clear that nature doesn't need imagination to be creative. It already is. 10. Tianzi Mountains, China. In the Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, massive stone pillars rise vertically from the ground, stretching high into the sky. When clouds move between them, something extraordinary happens. The mountains appear to float. From certain angles, the pillars vanish into the mist, leaving only their tops visible above the clouds. The space between them disappears, and your brain struggles to understand what it's seeing. This surreal landscape became famous after inspiring the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. But long before cinema, these formations already existed, shaped slowly by erosion over millions of years. Each pillar was carved as softer rock wore away, leaving behind tall, narrow columns that seem impossibly thin for their height. Even knowing the science, the illusion remains powerful. Your eyes expect the mountains to fall, to collapse, to obey gravity in a way that makes sense. But they don't. Standing among them feels like being inside a dream, one where the rules of the world are slightly different, where solid ground appears suspended in air and scale becomes impossible to judge. It's one of those places that feels less like a location on Earth and more like a glimpse into another reality. Our planet is far more imaginative than we often realize. Some of the most unbelievable sights on Earth aren't created by technology, special effects, or human design. They're created by time, pressure, water, chemistry, and chance. Working together over spans of time we can barely comprehend. Even when science explains how these places exist, something about them still feels wrong. They challenge our instincts. They confuse our sense of scale. They make reality feel unstable, even for a moment. And maybe that's why they're so fascinating, because they remind us that the world doesn't need to be exaggerated to be incredible. It already is. If you enjoyed exploring these impossible, yet real places, there's much more waiting beyond what you've seen here. The Earth is full of things that feel unreal until you realize they've been there all along.